Hey, yo, it's me, Pops Fan Marmalade, and you're watching the Comics-Related Madness Network. Huh? So come get some. CromCon. CromCon.
Hi, I'm Kurt Zauer, and you're watching the Madness Comic Network.
First world, come in and take a seat. Pay us no attention, it's all conspiracy. We have satire and parody, some funny, some perverse. If none of it's offensive to you, you'd be the first.
Revenge, the sweetest morsel to the mouth that ever was cooked in hell.
Inside you. And now for something completely different.
Of all the gin joints in all the towns in all the world, she walks into mine.
And welcome to another episode of Reality and Publishing Comics with me, Paul Gomez. Again, I come at you with this episode talking about pitfalls and problems that I've occurred.
It's all there, black and white, clear as crystal.
Can kind of avoid them and help them along the way, not hit those barriers that I came across. And I have a very special guest today, but before I do bring him on, I want to send a very special thank you to a man that's been a huge, colossal motivation person in the industry that's had a birthday recently. And even though he's passed, I read a post that somebody said that his birthday shouldn't just be one day, it should be a week long. And I definitely agree with that. He has been so huge in the industry that the highest award is actually named after him. And I have studied his work and how he has done things since I started. Thankfully to my first editor, who gave me plenty of stuff to study about this man, and his name is Will Eisner. Whenever I first started looking into some of his work, we did reviews on it on my first shows that we did every week, and talked about how great it was and how he went from frame to frame and how he did his art and stuff, and it was just amazing. One thing I advise anybody who's getting into this industry is to study his work. He's got books out there that will help you drastically, even if you're just understanding how to panel, how to get from one page to another, or how to do anything in the comic world. Study his work, because it will be eye-opening. Having said that, we have a great creator on and a very special guest that I've been looking forward to talking to for months, even years. This is Mr. Travis Gibbs.
Hey, how are you, man?
How are you doing? Thank you for being here. I want to say I'm a big fan. I definitely admire your work and your tenacity.
Thanks. I appreciate it. I apologize. I'm in the bedroom. My son really fell asleep. So,
right, no problem. Yeah, I got three boys myself, and being a single father, I understand that it's definitely hard for parents to get a little work in edgewise sometimes. But I have heard so much about you, and like I said, I admire your tenacity. I've seen so many of your interviews and how you have seem to have a set goal, and you're trying to take steps to get there and not just jump, from point A to point B, but you have this amazing catalog of work. Can we talk about that first?
Yeah, absolutely.
Orange Cones production. How many titles do you have?
That's a great question. I'd have to count. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 18.
That is amazing.
18. Yeah.
Now I know that there's a lot of theories about how you want to come into this comic industry. Some people say that you want to have one title and kind of go with that. Some people say get a catalog, which is kind of what I did as well. I've got about 4 books out there. Why is it, that you went about it the way you did?
Well, and I'm not sure if it was the right way, to be honest. Reflecting on it, when I look at, some of my peers' numbers, because if your goal is Kickstarter and that's your only goal, if you can stay on one series, you can gain popularity, you see it increase. The people who are making those 15,000, 20,000 campaigns, it's because they're on issue 7, 8, and they've built their catalog up versus jumping around like I have and like you have. But my goal was, I wanted to show that I can write an array of stuff. I wanted to find something that hit, and I wanted to be able to give editors, like, here's a trade. Like, do you like my stuff? Oh, you don't like there. Here's a trade. I'll just beat them in work ethic, right? Like that's what I'll get them. I didn't mean to have as many titles as I planned on, but and then other people ask you to take on writing gigs, and And then you find out they don't really have a publishing plan. So they're like, all right, we'll take it like Orange Cone adjacent, and like trying to figure that out and trying to make all those things happen. But yeah, that the whole goal was to me to get enough work to be able to go to an editor and go, here you go, you know?
Yes. And I love that. That's, I didn't exactly expect to get into the comic industry. It kind of happened by accident. But whenever I realized that I was actually going to make a run for it, that was kind of my goal as well, to have a wide variety of stuff and show my range, which, like I said, I admire you because you have tons of titles, tons of great titles, not just, something that you threw out there. These are stuff that you've, put your heart and soul into it. Like Granite State, this is a book that's specifically about you and where you came from. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, it's not specifically about me. It's like a fictional version, but yeah, it's from my hometown. It's set up in my hometown of Rochester, New Hampshire. It's me making commentary about the state of New Hampshire. Me trying to find my love. The behind the scenes of it is both my parents died. My grandmother died. Like those are my big like core like beings of who I am. They all died, and my parents were drug addicts, and like I just started hating the state. I love my brothers who were there, but like there's just bad there. And then, once you get older and you start going to funerals in like another state that you don't live anymore, like you're like, I don't want to come here anymore. Every time I come here, it's bad. It's not good. And then I have a son who's going on 4 now. And I was like, shit, I have to go back there. I have to show my kid where I'm from. Right. Yeah. So like this book was me trying to reunite my love for what do I love about New Hampshire, but also, if I write it from an anarch perspective, what can I say that I hate about New Hampshire? Kind of like shake it up and like feel it out. And it became such a cathartic work and like so epic, so really personal to me, and that's why Scout picked it up. And we've done 2 issues so far. We're working on the 3rd. And we did great. Our sales numbers were fantastic for Scout. We sold 4 variant store exclusives. I mean, it's really killing it.
That's amazing. Yeah. And like I said, I admire the fact that you did that, put so much of yourself into that book and just kind of opened yourself up. I find it hard to kind of open myself up to my writing. You definitely want to write from what you know, but sometimes you kind of guard yourself as well. So, I mean, it's like, how do you draw that line?
Well, I think like you, I don't like to do it. I mean, I do it in all my work, but I don't like to do it. Granite State Punk was an accident, me being so personal, my grandmother passed away. She left me a decent amount of money, and it wasn't enough money to like do anything I wanted, but there was enough that I could do one book where I don't have to go, well, I can only afford this art, or like whatever the case would be. It was one book, one issue at the time going, I can afford it. I can do it one time. What do I want to say? And the original story was about just dealing with the death of my parents. It was a kid who comes home to his own parents' house, and he finds out that they were murderers and there's a whole bunch of dead bodies in the back. But as I started writing it, I was like, maybe I should make it a little personal. I started setting in Rochester, and then I just blah, I just kind of about it. But even in other stuff like Voodoo Nations, my book there, that story is really a lot about my wife. When my mom died, when you have your first person who cares about you die, not that I want to talk about death today, but like it just seems to be out. That first person really affects you. That first one that mattered really messes you up. You don't ever recover. You know that you've changed on some fundamental level, but you don't know how to get back to where you were. Like, because I think like mortality sets in, right? Like that reality, that mortality is there, sets in. And I remember my wife and I had just got to the point where we decided that we're going to get married. Like I hadn't quite proposed to her yet, but I'm like, I know I'm not the person who you knew a month ago. Like, I don't know if I'm ever going to be that guy again. Right. And I hope you want to be around me. I don't know how it's going to work out because I'm out of my goddamn mind. Like if you leave me alone for 10 minutes, I could be out at a bar. I could be in depression. I could be like calling random people up, confessing. Like I was just nuts. I lost my damn mind for about a year. And my wife stuck by me. And that's what Voodoo Nations, like the core of it is about. Like obviously I had voodoo and all these things, it's about a wife who's sticking to her man, even though he's lost his damn mind. Like, there's no reason you should stay together. In this case, it's because of magical influence instead of death, but the same core of it. And I find that if you can have that core, more than what you know, like a core emotion to your books, they tend to be better. Like, people tend to resonate with them better. One core emotion that's real. You know, the rest of it can be fictional, but one core emotion would be real. So I try to do that.
So, yeah, and again, you know, I really made this program to kind of show new creators kind of how to go and to step on the right foot instead of, because I've had a lot of things that went wrong in my course, if you will. What would you advise, you know, like a new creator, how to go into it with their writing? I mean, do you want to pull from yourself? Do you want to pull from that kind of fantasy area and just make a book, or what would you advise the best?
So there's a whole bunch of levels to go in that. You know, I think before you even get to writing on the page, is figure out what your goals are, right? And that is really hard, especially in the comics community, right? Because I meet, like, my goal is the limit, right? Like, as far as I can go, Image, Marvel, DC, that's my goal.
Yeah.
But then I talked to another guy and he's just like, man, I just want to get my story out. Like, I just want to do it. Like, if it's on Indiegogo, Kickstarter, I don't care. I just want to tell this 4-issue story. And like, that's it. I just wanted to do it. Like, and that's hard. Like, as a creator, like, where my drive is here, like, understanding that, like, you have a place here too, like figuring out that goal and then finding people who have those similar goals. Like, you can have people who have higher goals than you too, but I think finding people who have the same motivation as you, I think, is super important, because that helps your art, your writing, everything, because your goals are all the same. You don't have to look at all the analytics and numbers or all that bullshit. Second, figure out if your goal is to make money and your goal is to make something to be on the next level. Unfortunately, we have to be adults about this. You have to look at what sells. You have to look at, this tends to do better than this. My first book was a crime book. It sold really well for a crime book. And I only know that because I've seen other crime books that came after me that don't sell as well as mine did. But again, my ceiling was like 6K. It's never going to get to the 10K because there's not that many crime books. Look at like every publisher has a crime book, and it's the lowest selling title of their whole catalog. Right. The only way to make a crime book sell is you got to be Ed Brubaker, write friggin' a Winter Soldier for a few years, and then you can do whatever the hell you want.
Right. No, I totally understand that. And that's one of the things I usually tell people, and I try to reiterate it as much as I can. You know, go into it having a plan. I personally tell them my plan is a 4, maybe a 5-prong plan, and that's usually, you know, crowdfunding, conventions, LCSs, and then, you know, if you can get out there and find a publisher. But one of those things definitely is to have a goal. And like I said, I definitely admired the fact that you have that goal and you strive for it. And you're trying to hit it like step by step. I talk to a lot of creators and they're like, I'm going to make my first book and it's going to go to Netflix and I'm going to be a star. And I'm like, that's not really the way it works. My goal personally is to be in previews. And the main reason for that is because I want to get into those LCSs, and that opens that door for me. So it's not really that I need to be with a specific publisher or anything. I just want to be able to go into an LCS. Yeah, I've got a book in previews. Here's my other catalog of books. You know, would you have me around so I could do a signing? And how can I help you out as a store? So, like I said, I admire the fact that you've taken things step by step and not try to just jump over, you know, from point A to point Z like a lot of creators do. Now, Voodoo Nations, that's a great book, and the way you came at it, it's definitely a little bit more supernatural than most.
Right.
Can we talk a little bit more about that? How did that come about?
Yeah, but let's you know, since this is for, do you want to go into, like, since I have the you know, the LCS, the preview stuff now, how I went about it, what my thought is, you know?
I would love to hear that. Yeah,
I have no problem talking about Voodoo Nations. And then the first thing, so let's address this Netflix thing, this selling the movie thing. All right. Anybody who's watching this, and I'm going to swear because it's the Madness Network. I know Pop swears periodically, so I think I can get away with it. Brian fucking K. Vaughan is one of the most talented writers, and he has 2 fucking failed TV shows. You are not more talented than Brian K. Vaughan. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you're not. He's one of a literary genius. Your odds are very, very high against you, especially when Brian K. Vaughan has 2 failures.
Right.
Not 1, 2. Both Paper Girls and Why the Last Man, which are amazing comic books.
Man.
Failures.
Why the Last Man was a surprise that it didn't.
Right.
To me.
So you got to think about these things. And I think a lot of people do. And I think even publishers do.
Yeah.
There's a lot of publishers in the diamond market. Their whole goal is they don't look at your book as, is this a good comic book? Will this sell in the comic stores? They go, can I sell this IP?
Right.
They don't give a shit if your comic sells.
Right.
Which is super stressful, right?
Yeah.
So they're not going to do that extra work to try to get it because they're an IP farm. They want to have Hollywood meetings. So the 1 out of 1,000 that sells, so they can sell that company. Look at Whatnot. I think Whatnot's doing crazy things right now. Whatnot's a publishing company. They have a direct market, but everything they do is to sell.
Yeah.
Like their whole goal is to sell. The reason why they have a publishing wing with a Wesley Snipes book is to literally, that says that our company now is worth a movie level stuff. And Wesley Snipes makes that happen.
Right.
They're going to sell their company within 5 years.
Yeah.
But if you look at sales numbers, they're doing really good because they've got the store exclusives.
Yeah.
They're also they're putting it in diamond, buying it themselves to flip on their whatnots. So it's a different stuff. The average publisher in diamond, here's the reality right now in 2023, and this is not what it was 2021 before like COVID really hit, is less than 1,000 copies.
Yeah.
It's wild. That's not enough to make anything. When you chuck that at half, so they buy it at like 60%. So you basically get to keep 40,
right?
And then Diamond takes 20% of that, and then the stores take the other 40,
right?
And you get 40 that you have to split with your publisher. That's less than $1 a book.
Yeah,
it's not a lot. And if you're selling so little properties, the price of printing is up. So that's even less. Like it's even less. It's so little money.
And people don't think about that. Yeah, they don't consider that. They just see like the success of it or the failure of it kind of thing.
Right.
And I love the fact that the people do understand this, because me personally, I'm going to sleep thinking about, okay, so if my book costs $6 and I'm selling it for half price to the LCS, and if I'm getting, such and such a little bit less, I'm thinking about all that stuff. And whenever I get into previews, I just signed a contract, which it's like, I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to make that much money off, but I'm okay with that because, it's going to help the sales of my other books. It's going to help me get into store signings. It's going to get me into conventions, which I've had a lot of conventions tell me no, just because I'm brand new.
Right. Yeah. That was 100% my goal too. I did it. I got the highest I could get, which is Scout, the highest contract I could get, because that allows me to now go to conventions. If I can get to conventions for free in Florida, that takes a bunch of money off my plate for me to produce more books that will hopefully get me to the next level, to a Dark Horse or a Vault, or prior to recently Aftershock, right? Getting to those next levels to help us do what we need to do to get where we need to go. So you've got to look at those as lost leaders, which is really hard. And then it's even more frustrating because in Diamond, and you may not even know this, Paul, there's 2 levels.
Yeah.
So there is Diamond publishers that are FOC, that means final order cutoff, and there's Diamond things that are just the big old catalog, right? So half of Diamond is this big old catalog. They have an end date. Everybody's end date is the same time. But if you're in a better company, you get another 2 weeks to still buy that book called FOC. The problem is anybody who's got a comic store in the last 15 years, all they really know how to do is the FOC. Yeah. They don't even look at this unless you not only hounded them, talked to them, like really like sat down and got them to do it. So your orders are going to be lower in those companies, like almost to the point where those companies are, I know a lot of them are even worried about doing it. Comics Pro just came this last week. I did all the scouring of the internet to learn as much as I could, and everyone's really upset because Diamond did a huge price hike on their shipping. So like they're ordering less books from Diamond, and they're ordering from Luna and like from these other things.
Now I did talk to somebody who I've actually talked to about 3 people who attended, and one of them, me and him talked for a few hours. He was saying that Diamond's actually going to go down on that shipping in 2 different months coming up.
Right.
But I mean, I definitely hear what you're coming from because of the fact that they were bringing it up to cover their housing costs and everything. Everybody definitely was mad about it. And I can understand that.
I guess the weird logic is, I guess they were charging it as like a pallet instead of like individual boxes.
Yeah.
Which is super like kind of cutthroaty. Like it's kind of like, yes, a pallet's going to weigh more than a box. Yes, it is.
But I mean, and tell you the truth, I'm barely learning this stuff and trying to gain ground. But I mean, I understand what these people were telling me about them going up, Diamond going up, and the fact that they're not really buying as much from Diamond. Right. I was asking these people, is Diamond really as prevalent as it used to be? Because most everything's going to Penguin Random House and this other company that's going to be coming down from Canada, supposedly. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's
Universal is coming. They are Universal is coming, but I will tell you, prior to this, like Scout's been in Universal the whole time. Like an average Scout is like 100 a month, 100 titles total. So and they have like 20 titles, so it's not really going to affect the indie people. It may affect the Marvel or DC because you can now have a third option that has both in the same catalog. Like that's a big deal for Marvel and DC if they can get the rates down, non-Canada shipping rates,
Right.
That's a big deal. So all those things are factored in. And I'm going to be honest, I'm not going to tell you the book, but one of the companies that I work for, like a book got 40 orders total.
Wow.
Like it can get really bad. Like you have to do a lot of work and there's all sorts of extra stuff. Like it's tough out there, and people think like Diamond's just going to fix you.
I know.
And then you hear the opposite, right? Where everyone's like, if you're going in Diamond, you're wasting your time. You need to do Kickstarter, make your own path, save your own stuff. But again, that's going back to what's your goal? My goal is to work for other publishers to get paid to be able to write for a living. That's not going to happen on Kickstarter. Kickstarter is me spending more money to make more books over and over again, rinse, repeat. And of course I'm going to do that. I like doing that. But what if I had a couple of books that I could just write and not have to stress them, right?
Exactly.
Like, can I have that, please?
And that was the thing with me. So I love Kickstarter. I love interacting with the fans. I love talking to people. I love the campaigns and setting it up. But it's like, if I could get into Diamond, there were several LCSs that kind of closed the door on me. Say, are you in Diamond? And it was like, no. And then we don't want to talk to you then. Right. And I can understand that because that's how they run. So that was my goal, to kind of get in Diamond so I could open some of those doors. And like I said, getting into conventions or so. I just recently signed with somebody who's actually in previews, and it's like, I'm not expecting to make millions, but one of the things I wanted to do was like, I want to try to make it the best I can. So I'm not going to that many conventions this year, but instead I'm going to try to hit as many LCSs that will take me. And so I can tell them, hey, this is my book that's going to be coming out, kind of keep an eye out for it, if you will. And I'll come back around whenever you want. But I mean, and a lot of people think, you get into Diamond, you got big money, and it's just not that way. Cause I mean, after you take down that breakdown, you also have to think how many orders of books are going to be sold. Sure. And with me, I didn't get into anyone like Scout, which is huge, but I still feel like if I can get out there and tell them, hey, I am in previews and you can get my book there, they'll keep an eye out for me. I went to an LCS this past weekend and I told them who I signed with, and they're like, oh, we know who that is. When's yours coming up? We're going to keep an eye and we'll definitely order a few. We'll even talk about exclusive. And that's I want to say that's the benefit of being able to go out there and talk to LCSs. I know a lot of independent people who say, well, they're not going to talk to me, or, it's too much of a hassle. And I'm like, but if you're in the comic industry, if you're trying to make this a job or make it the best that you can, isn't that what you need to do? Is kind of put boots on the ground, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not an easy overnight thing.
Well, and like
Brian,
the people who get mad at comic stores really piss me off. Like that's the thing that angers me. Like I get in fights all the time. People are just like, it's a dead market. You know, all they're selling is pups, the blah, 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 all this garbage. But the reality is that's where comic people are picking up their comics, period. You can ignore it all you want. You can say Diamond's screwing them over. They're not getting their rates. All of them are going to close their doors in a year. It's not that year yet, right? They're still open. Still new comic stores are opening every day. In my fan base I have a separate fan base. It unlocks a third, you know, you talked about your 5-prong. That's a 6-prong. When I have a new book, I can do 5 or 6 signings at all these stores where I make $200 to $300 for free. And in that store, I am just as important as Scott Snyder, Tom Taylor, all these people to those people because I am there. And that's what it takes. Like for me, I've been doing Florida for years. You'll notice, Paul, in April, not to spoil my big plan, but you'll see me in New Hampshire because of Granite State Punk. I have several signings planned out there. I'm flying out there several times. Why? I have a New Hampshire race book, and that's a second market. If I can get a second market in New Hampshire, now I've got the Southeast, the Southwest. Some of those will move up, you know, into Georgia and down into Massachusetts and up to Maine. Like it's a plan. Like there's a solid plan. Then from there, I'm going to go to Michigan and Texas, right? Texas has a great comic scene. So does Michigan.
Yes.
Move it up. Then California and Washington, move it up. Then I have a small little pockets in all these things to make what I do. But that takes years, effort, and commitment, which a lot of people don't want to actually do. Like they just be like, well, I'm making enough on Kickstarter or Indiegogo. I can make 20,000. Yes. But at the end of the day, when you're not running a Kickstarter, is your website doing stuff? Is stores asking for refills of your stuff? There's a lot of other avenues to help you get to that next level. Like the people who get excited about getting into Walmart. Cool, you got into Walmart. Nobody goes to Walmart to buy comics. So that's really exciting, but like that's not where they go for comics. So, you know, get these Spinnerex. Spinnerex are great. I think that they shouldn't, but they went away for a reason. Like they went, we have to admit that. We can't say, oh, back
you have to evolve.
But they went away for a reason. Like
and you have to evolve. This is what I tell people. I mean, with Whatnot coming in and Whatnot being such a big, strong thing, I tell people, don't overlook this. This is something that can help you out. I've had a Whatnot exclusive that just happened a month ago, and it was great for me. So I was like, not only do I get those fans, I got the fans on the LCSs that I'm trying to build up, and I'm trying to help the LCSs while I'm there as well. Yeah. You know, I sell them for a cheaper price to the LCS so they can sell them to the customers. Sure. And then, you know, it's like I talk to them about exclusives and stuff like that can help their store even more. I love the LCS signings. To me, it's a great personal way to get to people. Conventions are amazing, but you're at a convention, you have 100, 200, 300 vendors around you. And those people are going to be going around wanting to talk to everybody. You have an LCS. It's a little bit more, you know, social, just, you know, comfortable with you and them.
Right. And you're competing with Michael J. Fox and like David Prowse, and like David Prowse is dead, so I guess you're not competing with him, but
competing against Travis Gibb,
guy, right? All these celebrities are taking your money, and you're getting literally what's left over. And Scott Snyder, Donnie Cates, all these really good people, you know. So how do you get a little bit of that money and really short exclusives are the way? You know, I have tons of MegaCon exclusives for my MegaCon experience. You know, I sold when I was with Coins of Judas through Band of Bards, we sold 9 store exclusives for Coins of Judas. That's crazy amounts of store exclusives. But what that did was that allowed me to go, these stores are all in on me. You should be in on it. It helps our numbers. It helps our numbers grow. And remember that little bit of money that we talked about from Diamond, store exclusives normally are done outside. They're done from the publisher to the LCS. They're not done. So that profit margin's better. So now they're charging that store, let's just say $5. They're charging $5 because they're going to sell it for $20. They're going to charge them $5 an issue. Cost you, let's say, $2 to print. Now there's $3 to split. Instead of 70 cents. Like that's a better deal. Like I'll take that all day.
Yeah, definitely. And I like I said, I admire the fact that you went out and got so many stores.
Yeah.
I don't know how you got so many. I mean, that's just great. But on top of all that, you're helping the artists because with every store
Right.
exclusive, you have a new cover that you're putting on there. You're showcasing these artists. And if there's one thing that I love more than anything, it's being able to showcase my artists,
Right.
getting them out there as much as I can get myself out there. But you know, kind of boasting about these people because I try to get most of my artists from around my area. I mean, that doesn't happen all the time, and I love some artists from other areas, but I try to get people around me because that was how I kind of jumped into it. I had lost my job, and I wanted other people who were around my area to benefit from this. So it's like it's amazing to talk to someone that's kind of got the same kind of goals or ideology of the way. I do hear a lot of people that say they want to stay on Kickstarter, and I understand that. It's comfortable. Sometimes it's very beneficial to people. To me, I love Kickstarter because like I said, I love building the Kickstarter itself. But the thing about it to me is I don't really have that interaction, that
Right.
fan interaction that you get from the conventions and especially from LCSs. You get to start talking to LCSs, it's like you're getting invited into a whole new family.
Right.
And it's just amazing.
Well, there's a couple things to unpack there. So one, local artists are really good for you, especially if you're going to do store signings.
Yeah.
Bringing an artist in, our writers mean nothing. So
Right.
getting a local artist
Yeah.
helps. It's either get a local artist. There's two ways of doing it: get a local artist or get a name. Those are
Yeah.
the two things, right? Like, so you're going to pay one way or the other. You're going to pay less, but that guy's going to come out and he's going to have to take a little bit of your stuff, or you pay a whole bunch and that guy's going to be the draw, but he's probably going to want more comps and all that. So it's going to cost you about the same, really, if you do the math. The other thing is, one of the things I do, I don't know if you know this, I do something with a LCS called Tales of the Collective. Have you ever heard of that?
I have, yeah.
Yeah. So Tales of the Collective is something that Orange Cone runs for a store in Orlando called The Collective. And what we do is we do two things a year. So we do, we're just launching 2023. And what I do is I take Kickstarter books and I put them in I take 5-page stories from them, like let them write a new story and they submit it and they're part of that. And that store now can be all in. So they sell that to their clientele. It's kind of like previews and they're like, oh, I want to get, the next issue. I want to get this. So that it helps do that and it forges that relationship. But if you look deeper into that, like deeper into what I do, like I sell it as this big thing, you'll notice it's 2 Florida and 2 outside of Florida.
Yeah.
Reason why is they want the signings. They want the people in there. That the 2 Florida is actually a mandatory requirement to put that together because they need that. They can't afford to fly people out, but they can do half and then half to other people to hopefully get them in. And 100% their goal as a store, again, because we're talking about comics, I'll give you the intercuts. They're just helping as many people as they can because one of us is going to make it.
Yeah.
And we're going to be loyal to that store because they helped you.
Exactly. I have this one store that's a few blocks away from me. And whenever I was doing my scouting before I started writing anything, I started talking to some LCSs and I asked them, do you have any store signings? Do you have people come in here? And they're like, yeah, we would love to, but we've never had the option or never been able to get anybody. We've tried. And I was like, you know what? Anytime one of my books comes out, you're going to be the first store that I talk to. And ever since, that's the way it's been. It's like every time one of my books come out, that store has been the first store that I went to. Said, hey, you want to buy these? Hey, you want me to come in and talk to your customers? I'd give them a Black Friday pack, which was, a few of my books so they could give away for free or in their stuff. And I think it's great. Like I said, if you help an LCS, they're definitely going to help and push you. They're going to, look at those store exclusives. So whenever I saw the collective thing, that's really a great idea. It's amazing. I definitely want to jump onto the other items that you do, such as Cthulhu.
Sure.
With all these artists, and this is such a great thing. I mean, how did this come about? I mean,
it's all my wife. My wife is such a big influence. I actually just wrote something on my Substack about my wife and how we can trace every single one of my comics to my wife, like on some level. I'm very blessed in that aspect. I've been a single father like you, where I just raised my daughter for, about 10 years in between. But my wife has been such a helpful, and one of the days we were walking on IKEA, and IKEA is like a big deal to us because it's not a local thing. We have to go far away to it. It was kind of a date night. Like, we're just, let's go to IKEA. Like, everyone talks about these meatballs and like, let's find something. We just got married. I was let's find something for the house and like eat some meatballs. I hear it's great. And we were just talking because, that's what's great about a furniture store. You just kind of, especially IKEA, you're walking through room after room after room. There's going to be sections where you're just like, this is hideous because it's not good for you. Like, it's not, those aren't yours. Those are room 7, 8, 9 coming up. And she was like, what do you think would make money on Kickstarter? Like take off the creative hat for a minute. What do you think? I was like, oh, well, anything with Cthulhu. And then I thought about it. She's like, well, what with Cthulhu? I was like, really mix it with anything and it could work. And I was like, well, and I know a little bit about public domain. I don't know why, I just do. And I was like, well, if you mixed it with like Oz, you'd have all these characters. And then I did. And I wanted to work with, between you and me, Paul, like, I was like, I want to work with people who are better than me and put my name there to get my name up, elevated. That was my original plan. Unfortunately, I somehow got up with them like on my own before it came out. But like, so I hired everyone I knew who was more talented than me, who had bigger names and bigger deals, and like hired them in Oz. And then the next one came out. I was like, all right, let's get bigger people. Like, so we had to find bigger people. And then we're now on Neverland, which is the third one. We got to get bigger people. Like this next one, I got Cullen Bunn. So I've got the Cullen Bunn. Yeah. Mr. 4 books a week coming out in Diamond, Cullen Bunn. I got Charlie Stickney, from White Ash, just ended what was $166,000 Kickstarter. Pat Shan, who's at like 100,000 on day 2 of his Kickstarter. Rich Woodall, who's an artist who ran the scouting wing of Scout for Electric Black. Carmeline, who created Frey for Buffy. Like, these amazing people, because they see the book that we're doing and it allows me to give that opportunity. But with those big names, I also always go, who's this guy who's up and coming who I just think has a good heart, can really do something, and I put them in it well and kind of mix it all together. So we have this beautiful book. And what I do differently is I add a narrative to it too. Like, so it's not just another anthology, because I think the problem with anthologies and why like the first one will do well and then they start not selling well is because they're just another book of like random stories. And yeah, you can get good creators in there, but if it's more than just a theme and like it's a full arc and there's a storyline that goes with it, I think people view it, and it helps everyone, right? Because you're not that one bad story, because you have to say the whole thing is bad, right? If it's a regular anthology, you can be like, that story was crap. That dude, you can write that guy down. I'm not writing him. If it's a whole story, I help them make it so they don't get called out.
So and again, I love these anthologies. I love the fact that you have so many people involved in it and so many wheels, but it works so well. I want to talk about a few people that we actually know together, like Chuck.
Sure.
Chuck, I can't say enough about Chuck. He's such a great editor, such a great friend, and he's talked to me about you and how you've helped. You have this reputation of helping so many people, and it's like being in the industry, trying to find your way. How is it that you get in with such people like Chuck and like Travis? Or I'm sorry, Travis, Tyler. Man,
Tyler James or Tyler Carpenter?
Tyler Carpenter. So Tyler Carpenter, he has a stream that whenever I first started, while I was learning how to write, I would have on the background. His was one of the 4 streams that I had. So I owe him a lot, and I've talked to him, and he's done some sketches for one of my books to demonstrate stuff, and I thought it was amazing. Just he has a unique way of looking at things that's different than most people, and he has such great stuff as well. How do you forge these bonds with these great talent?
Well, for those particular 2, we both came up together. We were in the same crew. There's a group on Kickstarter on Facebook called Indie Comics Conspiracy, and that was the hub for a long time. That was the community, and any community can be those communities, right? They can be what they need to be. So we build up together. So Tyler and Chuck and I were all making books. He was doing Welcome to the Void at the time.
Yeah.
Tyler was doing, I think he was just wrapping up the Demons book.
Right.
I was doing Broke Down and Four Dead Bodies, and we just kind of grew up together and supported each other. But I also think that people can resonate with people who are in this for the long term and can't. Right. And sometimes you resonate with somebody and you can really bond with them, and you go and you can find those little networks. And I think those networks are really, really important with you. In comics, it's all about your class. We're all in the same high school. We go back to that beginning. The people who, the freshmen, they just want to get their thing out. They just want to be, they just started. They're like, whatever, I don't care. The seniors are like, all right, how do I continue to get educated to do the next thing? We want to go to college, right? How do we get to college? But the reality is we're all in the same high school, right? It doesn't matter. Like, we just have different grades class. And I think what's important is figure out your grade and hang out with them.
Yeah.
And kind of do that. But the other secret to making, you and I had this comment on Twitter. The problem is you stick to your class. There has to be a time where you're like, I've got to leave this class. And it's not that I don't love them.
Right.
It's that I need to find new people who have my dream, because I need to network, because I need to know what they know. I know all that you know. We're all talking about the same shit over and over again. I need to go somewhere else and figure out a different way to do it. That's why I'm so good at selling LCSs, because I went to the classes that cared about that stuff, because I'm a little older than some of these people creating comics. So my only goal was creating LCSs relationships back in the day. I didn't come up with the point of doing that. So I think that that's important. And I think that the problem with comics, we're very cliquey. Yeah. And we see that as a threat. Like, why are you hanging out over there? Because they're friggin' creating great stuff. Like, let me go over there for a minute.
I want to be part of great stuff, not just my stuff, but I want to be part of, great. And I want to bring people with me. I mean, this is a thing that you don't see in just about every creator. You have this anthology, this collective set. You have these things that most people aren't thinking or helping other people.
Right.
That's just admirable. And like I said, I've definitely looked forward to talking to you. I could talk to you a million hours, especially about writing that we haven't even talked about. Right. I mean, we're both writers, and there's definitely hundreds of things that we could talk about. Before we go too far, I definitely want to get into the project that you have currently.
Yeah, my wife has a project live. Yeah, absolutely. Do you want me to bring it up, or do you got it?
I got to admit, I'm really tough and understanding this streaming stuff.
Okay,
I do have it up.
I'll help you. I'm good at it, so you're good. So I'll share screen and we'll just talk about it real quick.
Sounds good.
Because there's a lot of other stuff to talk about. But so you've followed me for a long time. These numbers aren't my numbers. These aren't. So I'm going through a spiral of like condition, but it's a kid's book, right? Like kids' books are different. They're a different thing. This book is written by my wife. It has a song. I'm not going to play it, but it's a very catchy song about cottage cheese. The main character is my son, Remy. And it's a beautiful little kids book that has a song connected with it. You can download the song and it'll go through the book and it'll read along with your kids. So it's a very, very cool book that my wife put together. We've got all these pledge levels. You can get all the Orange Cone stuff if you're just finding out about it, from Coins of Judas to Granite State Punk to all that stuff. You have the ability to get all these things in the Kickstarter, which is very, very cool. But yeah, if you have a kid and you want to, you encourage reading, this is a great book for that, because it's a sing along. You can play the song, you could do it, and it's written like any of the other kids songs. It's very upbeat, a lot of fun. Cheerful, my son's into poop right now, so he's singing all these poop songs. But my daughter did it before him. Like it's just a kid's phase. That's why there's so many poop books. But yeah, this is a great book. We had 8 days left where we still need $400 to fund. Again, I'm used to funding on day 3 at a much higher goal. This is very different for me, but it's a very cool book, and I definitely recommend you trying out. And if you don't like me, my wife wrote it. She's way better than me in every way. So,
and kids' books are great to be out there. It's definitely good to encourage the indie community to make kids' books. I know a lot of them get lost in the fray because most indie stuff is adult content kind of stuff, but it's great to see this. I have, like I said, 3 kids of my own that I'm a single father of. One of them's about 7, and he loves these kind of fun books, and it's definitely great to put something out there like that. You know, there's a huge market. Probably one of the hugest markets out there for comics is actually Scholastic, and
Yeah.
you know, that's definitely great to have something that's along their range kind of thing.
Well, and that's one of the realities that we just talked about groups and stuff. You go to a bookstore and you look at the shelf, and there is tons of comics you've never effing heard of, and they are selling way better than anything at Marvel and DC.
Yeah.
Their numbers are higher. Dogman, I don't know who wrote that, but I know it sells tremendous.
Yeah.
Cats and Underpants, all these things.
Yeah.
And here's the crazy part. We talk about gatekeepers, right? We talk about all these gatekeepers. Those guys couldn't get into a convention.
No.
Right?
No.
They felt the convention like, who? Like, I don't know this comic, even though they sell more than us, more than the people who are sitting there. Comics are wild, and we always put blinders on of what a comic is and how valuable. And it's, as I've gotten older and more into this, like, I realize that that's not reality. Like, I know this kids book. Everybody's ever done a kids book. They're like, man, I know it sucks. Kickstarter doesn't really well, but the minute you get it to that con, you're going to sell it all day, because the kids love those kids book, and they would just want something. So I hope that's right. I hope that once we print these, that's going to be the case. But right now, I'm just flipping out because I've never been in this situation.
Right. And then, like I said, they get lost in Kickstarters and stuff, because most of the audience in Kickstarters, I think, are a little bit older. I think they're great to have out there, though, because like me, a single father that is on Kickstarter, looks for this stuff for my kids. I know I bought at least 2 or 3 kids friendly books, and one of my best friends has his book on there, and his kid friendly one. So I definitely hope that that gets up there. I'll definitely back it after the show. And
sure, awesome, thank you, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, it looks great. I've looked over it a few times, and of course, most of the stuff that you have looks great. So I definitely want to talk about Coins of Judas.
Okay,
because I mean, this is a huge deal getting in with Band
of Bards.
Yeah. How was that?
So it was wild, man. Like, it's really cool, especially someone like you and I. So I assume your publishing gig is not a new property. It's one of your old properties that you sold over, right?
No,
it's a brand new one.
Yeah, they actually, it's brand new.
Oh, good. That's awesome. That's really, really cool. That's that's really awesome. So much like you, I wanted my first hit in the rec market to be something new. I wanted to see what fan base jumps over, right? Because we don't know that answer. Like, you don't know the answer till you do it.
Right.
So Band of Bards, they talked to me about getting some of my properties, and I'm like, because all my properties are in discussion. Like, I've got tons of in discussion. I don't know about you, but I've got tons of in discussion.
Awesome. Yeah.
For a whole bunch of stuff. And then finding release dates. People don't want to compete. It's crazy. Like, people don't even want to compete with other stuff. They're like, when is your Scout book coming out? When is your Band of Bard book? Like, they want to be in the schedule. That's not like, dude, people can buy more than one of my book. I promise. Like, it's not hard. Like, especially when we're at the $5 price tag. We're not talking about the $20 Kickstarter price tag. Like, we're at the $5. Like, we're good. Like, but so Band of Bards came to me. I'd like them for far. They're very, very good. They're a great new company. They're trying to really invest in a lot of people, and like, actually invest. Like, they're investing money. Like, they probably won't pay for a whole book's production, but they'll be like, hey, if you have your book production, we'll happily pay for your lettering, or we'll pay for your cover. Like, they're actually putting your money where your mouth is, which now isn't happening. I mean, there's actually a big expose about it from James Tiernan the 4th that came out. If you really should read that, Paul, if you can get it. Pay the $5 to get it. Mm-hmm. He did a whole expose about where we're at in 2023. Why things like Aftershock are falling apart. Why like the comics are so volatile. Why Kickstarter has almost 200 campaigns right now. Kickstarter is normally at like 153 at this time of year. It's close to 200. I think it's 184 last I looked. It's because like the angel investors that were investing in a lot of these companies have backed out because of the failings of the most recent TV shows coming from the comics property. So there's people who want to come in here and make the stuff. And remember that our comics, the reason why manga does better than us, people are like, this and that. It's because no agendas. No, fuck all that. It's not any of that. They have tons of agendas in those books. The reason why is they care about the industry and its survival 20 years from now. Marvel and DC cares about the next movie that's coming out. That's why Kang in the multiverse is in every Marvel book right now, because they care about producing stuff for that film. And then when that film's done, the next film. DC, same stuff, producing stuff for that film. That's all they care about. And it's slowly killing us.
Yeah.
Like it's not, and it's not that they're, and I'm not even going to say it's bad content, because it's not bad content. Some of those are great stories, but we're not getting new and exciting, which is what's going to keep us, right? We're not getting Death of Superman would be a bad investment in 2023, because we need a new Superman. Like James Gunn's making a new one. So we've got to look at these things. So going back to Band of Bards has that. They only care about comics. They're not trying to get IPs. They're not trying to farm stuff. They're not trying to do their media. Obviously, if those comes their way. So they're just trying to make a strong portfolio so they can go to the next step, which is the book market, because the book market is what helps sell comic publishers, getting a few trades to get there. So I did a book. Tyler was actually never even on my radar. Like it was we submitted for a small anthology. Tyler and I are friends. I was like, hey, I got this 7-pager. Will you, can I write your name down and you'll do it if they say yes? He's like, how many pages? 7. I was like, he's like, I really would like to do 6. I was like, I can get you at 8. He's like, that's going up. Yeah. He's like, fine. We submitted it. Sorry. They declined it. They said that they didn't want it for the anthology.
Yeah.
But they said we would invest in it as a series. We think it's a good enough, strong idea to do it a series. And I was literally throwing them a bone because I like the company. So you'll see me sometimes, I'll be in like a backup story for random people. Like I'll see someone who I think should be at that next level. And if they ask me, most of the time I'm like, dude, you need a 4-pager? Like if my name will help you sell 100 books, like let me do that. I'll put my name on something, because awesome. I think that's what it's, that's about what it's worth in the Kickstarter market. About 100 books is putting my name on something. So, and in the direct market, I have a little bit there too, especially now. So I offered, and they were like, let's do a series. So we did a series. Their budget could afford to do two issues. So we did 2 issues, became the best-selling book of their publishing company. That's awesome. And now we're doing volume 2 coming out in October. So we're putting that out right now. And it's just really cool to be part of it and being part of this new company as it grows. But again, it's because of that, they don't have a lot of the infrastructures, right? Like what you need. They're not an FOC. So I've got to work a little extra harder to sell books there. Yeah. But I also helped them build their variant cover program. That's why I could sell 9, because I got it to a real affordable rate that's profitable for them, profitable for us, and helps get that name Band of Bards out there.
I mean, congratulations on all that. I mean, that is great. It's inspiring that to hear, to have seen this journey that you've gone on. I just got picked up, and it kind of fell on my lap because of my artist. As a matter of fact, he came to me with this picture, and he's like, I want to make a book out of this picture. So I came up with the concept, wrote the story, and he was like wanting to do a graphic novel. So I wrote a 90-page story. He took it and shopped it around, and this company said, we love the concept, we love the story, but we want a 22-page monthly. And so they signed us to. I had to rewrite the whole thing.
Sure,
but I mean, it's funny how things work out. Sometimes you're doing a collection of stuff, and they pick up that book. Sometimes you do a graphic novel, and they want that 22-pager. It's definitely funny how publishers work. And I tell people, it's not really that you're succumbing to them, but you're having to meet them halfway. Because I've heard a lot of people say, well, if you're going to change your story for a publisher, you're kind of selling out. But it's like, I'm not giving them all my books,
right?
I'm giving them this one that's currently in production, kind of thing. So it wasn't exactly set in stone anyway.
Well, and for me, like my instinct when I write graphic novels, like even when I did Dog Days, which I know is a whole thing, I wrote it That's 22-page issues because that's just the
Oh,
way
really?
I think. Like I write it. All right, you want me to write a graphic novel? Cool. That's 5 single issues. All right, cool. How do I do that? Like because that's the way I think. So it's just the way you approached it.
Yeah.
You know, you could have
Yeah.
approached it that way too. You know.
You know, I never thought of that. Of course, me being brand new, most of my books are single issues, but I figured this being a graphic novel, I was going to treat it as such.
Right.
I didn't think about breaking it down until they said, "Hey, we want a 22-page monthly kind of
Right.
thing," and I'm like, "That's going to be fun to do, trying to break this down."
Right.
But it really was. It was one of those things that I try to tell new creators. Sometimes you have to push yourself in different ways.
Mhm.
You know, I don't know if you did this, but like my first book was a one-shot 22-page book. My second book was 32 pages, and it's going to be 12 issues when it's said and done. So it's like I wanted to do a wide range of things, and I think that's just one of those things. Whenever you're working with a publisher, you definitely have to. It's like you're working with a partner.
Right.
It's a give and take thing, and some new creators don't understand that well because they want to be in charge of every single thing, and it's kind of hard to get them to understand that.
Well, I think again when we're dealing with art, like this is someone's baby, right?
Yeah.
Like I think that's the problem with it. Where like I even think about like my wife. I was like, you know, if my wife leaves me and she takes everything, I can just write something else. Like she can have them all. Like I'll just write something else. But that's because like I really trust my ability to write and create concepts. Like these concepts are great. But I don't know about you, but every writer I talk to, you have an opus.
Yeah.
Like you have something that you want to write, but you're not ready to write it yet. Like
Yeah.
because true writers know that is really good. I need to have a stronger fan base. I need to have a better penman. I need to be a little bit more poetic. I need to get better at A, B, and C before I start that opus.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's the difference where some people are like, I'm writing my opus right now. I'm writing the best foot forward. Well, maybe that's not probably the best plan. Maybe you should learn the craft so your opus can be an opus, like can be a swan song. Like this is the best thing I've ever written, you know?
Or like the genres, because genres change a lot. Right now, I think horror genre is really popular, and like my I guess that one book that I'd love to write is more like a crime-based book.
Right,
but,
sure.
You know, right now I don't think that audience is out there. Sure,
Yeah.
if I build an audience, maybe I can write it and it'd be received a little bit better. But as a new book, a new writer, I don't think that was the way to go. And you know, so again, some creators come out there and just say, I don't care.
Right.
You know, and that's hard to get them to understand. It's okay if you don't care, but you got to understand that audience probably is going to be fighting. You're going to be fighting an audience that ain't there as opposed to writing something for the audience. And I think, and I've told people, I think there's a happy median. Whenever I wrote Bushibu Circus, this is the one that me and my kids wrote. We really wanted it to be something that everybody would love. Not only me, my kids, but the audience as well. And I think a lot of creators kind of miss that point.
Yeah, I mean, you do stuff like I love crime too. Like just like you, I would have worked down in 4 Dead Bodies forever, but it didn't find a big enough audience.
Right.
So it is what it is. You know, I'll make a trade, and I may eventually come back to it. I'd love to keep doing it, but it just doesn't have the audience. And I know it's not my writing because a lot of people write it. They don't like the art. They don't like this. But I know that even changing some of those things are only going to get me so much more. Right.
Right.
Like it's still the genre of crime. Crime is not. Quentin Tarantino isn't writing crime movies anymore, right?
Right.
Guy Ritchie isn't writing tons of crime movies anymore. Until that happens again, I need to wait, you know?
Yeah.
Those are things.
And genres do change. I don't think a lot of people understand that. Genres do change. Yeah. You wait a while and you know, something else is going to become popular next month. Jarvis, it's been great talking to you at the top of the hour. If you know, if you got a few minutes to stay around afterwards, I have, like I said, a million questions.
Sure, yeah. Stay around for a few minutes. But I got, believe it or not, I got a meeting with Chuck at 8. I got another.
Oh, that's awesome. So I need to let go of the fans and everything. Yep. Let the show get down, and thank you everybody for coming around and listening to me and Mr. Gibbs. Hey, Mr. Gibbs, thank you for being here. I appreciate it so much. have a great week. If you ever need any help, I am Paul Gomez at 790. You can text message me, call me, whatever you want to do. I'm here to help. Travis Gibbs, do you have any contact information or anything you'd like to
go
say?
to my Substack. travisgibb.substack.com is probably the best way to find me. Go to that and reach out, and we'll take care of you.
Everybody have a great week. God bless.
Mickey, Barry, Slothy, and Stig are back.
In Misfits Clubhouse, Sharks, Dragons, and Little Red Wagons. Our lovable quartet knows how to turn anything into a big adventure.
And this issue is no exception.
They have a face-off with the ever-feared Old Man Willie.
There's a beach bash bonanza in their future.
And we also get to meet for the very first time their favorite TV hero,
Bruce McTutherson,
Aquatic Investigator. This campaign will have multiple collectible covers by awesome artists.
And as you'd expect from us, some unique swag. We hope you'll stick around.
Come on in and hang out in the clubhouse.
Join along in the shenanigans.
Hey friends, Morgan Quaid here to tell you about a little project called The Crimson Folly, a D&D inspired comic anthology which takes place in a fantasy tavern called, you guessed it, The Crimson Folly. I'm working with more than a dozen artists from all over the world to bring this story to life through sequential comic artwork, intricate portrait pieces, sketches, and of course, words. My aim is to produce a combined comic story and art book. The first 40 pages will be a comic book telling the main story of the folly and using different artists to build out each section of the story. The art book will then contain sketches and short stories relating to characters from that story. So if you're a fan of D&D, fantasy artwork, comics, or just great storytelling, you'll love The Crimson Folly. Yes, you will.
I'm a setting sun, but I'll never run. I'm a dead man walking. I'm a dead man walking. I will stay and fight as long as I'm alive. I'm a dead man walking. I'm a dead man walking. Till I die. And kill till I die.
Comic Books for Kids provides comic books to kids in hospitals and cancer centers across the U.S. It's a place where we can all work together to make sure every child has a comic book. 100% of all proceeds go towards the kids. It's about making a difference, and while they're in the hospital, allowing them to fly like a superhero, battle dragons, or rescue teddy bears. We are in every state in the country and now support over 160 hospitals. Every month,